Oh, dude, NordVPN be popping off. Holy crap. They're sponsoring a lot of people. Outlaw Bard.
What you're currently watching is some of the last footage ever recorded of popular Mexican musician Chalino Sanchez. While performing at the Salon Bugambilias in Culathan, an audience member came up on stage and handed him a note. Written on that piece of paper was his death warrant, signed by the men who were about to take his life that very night. But we'll get into the events of that night shortly. First, some context.
Thank you, Doblasi.
Prior to hearing about this case, I hadn't actually heard of Chalino Sanchez, but it seems he was quite a popular artist. And even to this day, 30 years after his untimely demise, millions of people still listen to his music every month on Spotify.
Thank you, Kitty Doggo.
His popularity has grown since his death, but it's safe to say that even during his lifetime, Chalino wasn't some small fry singer, and was a legitimately well-respected musician with his own unique style. In fact, he pioneered the corrido prohibido, a style of musical storytelling that mythologizes narcos. The subject matter he covered made a lot of sense too. Chalino had had a rough start in life and had to learn to be tough from a very young age. When Chalino was just 6 years old, his father passed away, and he assumed the man of the house role. As such, he was very protective of his family. When Chalino was 15, his sister was raped by a man called Chapo Perez, a rich and powerful mafioso from his hometown.
Mafioso?
2 years later, Chalino hunted Chapo down at a party. He shot and killed him, and then fled to Tijuana.
Oh, there's some mafia shit going on here. Okay. Would you stop it? Stop. Okay? Yeah.
He managed to cross the border into the US and made his way to Los Angeles with big dreams of becoming a superstar.
Like a Mexican gangster?
Adding to the drama of Chalino's life, in 1984, one of his brothers was killed in a Tijuanan hotel room, inspiring him to write his first ballad in the style which he would soon become famous for. Not long after his brother's demise, Chalino found himself in prison. The young outlaw had been rumbled for a slew of petty crimes which he had committed while providing for himself. While inside, he wrote songs for his fellow inmates, using their life stories as inspiration for his lyrics. As it would turn out, some of the prisoners he wrote songs for had connections in the music industry. Upon his release, Chalino recorded a 15-song album at the San Angel recording studios in LA. His songs were a hit amongst young Hispanic men in the area, and within no time, Chalino was inundated with booking requests for clubs and bars throughout Los Angeles. It was during one of his performances in 1992 that something terrible happened. While on stage at the fully packed Plaza Los Acros restaurant in Coachella, an intoxicated man named Eduardo Gallegos walked up to Chalino and aimed a pistol at his head, angered by the fact that Chalino wouldn't play one of his song requests.
What the hell?
Chalino pulled out a firearm of his own, and the two men began shooting at one another.
Dude. What? I'm sorry? Huh? How dare you not play my song request? I must kill you. What?
Two of Eduardo's bullets hit Chalino in the chest, and one struck his accordionist in the thigh. Chalino's counterfire missed Eduardo, and he ended up accidentally killing a 20-year-old audience member named Claudio Rene Carranza. 7 other patrons were also injured during the showdown. The conflict came to an end when Eduardo was shot in the mouth by his own weapon after being wrestled to the ground by an
shot in the mouth by his own weapon?
onlooker. Chalino was rushed to the hospital, and despite arriving in a critical condition with a punctured lung, he ended up making a full recovery and was discharged 11 days later.
So anyway, I started blasting.
No charges were brought against him, as it was deemed he had acted in self-defense. Eduardo also survived being shot in the mouth. He was sentenced to 15 years behind bars. After the Coachella incident, Chalino saw a massive increase in album sales, and one of his songs in particular, Nieves de Enero, received a huge amount of airplay on local radio stations. Chalino Sanchez was now officially the outlaw bard of LA, but unfortunately for him, his success was to be short-lived.
Well, don't spoil it.
The 15th of May, 1992, just 4 months after the incident at Coachella, Chalino was performing an exclusive show at the aforementioned Salon Bugambilias. While taking song requests, an audience member walked up to Chalino and handed him a folded-up note. Scrawled on the crumpled piece of paper wasn't a request, but rather a death threat. You can actually see the realization on Chalino's face as it dawns on him that this was going to be his last ever performance. He takes that fact in, seemingly accepts his fate, and goes on with the show.
No, I don't think he accepts his fate. I more think that he's like, oh, it's probably just a troll. You know, it's probably just someone messing with me.
Later that night, Chalino would leave the venue with his brothers, a cousin, and several young women. Just after midnight, their vehicle was pulled over by multiple Chevrolet Suburbans. Several armed men with state police IDs told Chalino to get out of the car, said that their chief wanted to see him. With a smile, Chalino exited his vehicle, got into the back of one of the Chevrolets, and disappeared with the men into the night. The following morning, his body was discovered just off Highway 15 near Los Laureles, Culiacán. There were 2 holes in the back of his head.
Dude, that's scary. That like the mafia has like a bunch of people with cop IDs and stuff like that.
He had been blindfolded, and rope burns marked his wrists. He was just 31 years old. Chalino left behind a wife and 2 children, one of whom, Adan Sanchez, became a somewhat popular musician in his own right, though he lost his life in a car crash back in 2004. It's unknown if Chalino's slaying was related to the incident in Coachella, to the killing of Chapo Perez during his youth, or to some other grievance from his past. But the look on his face during his final performance suggests that he knew exactly who was coming for him, why they wanted him dead, and that he knew that there was no getting out of this one.
Bacon Face Jugs, thank you so much for the $9.99. Just woke up and missed everything before this. Here's $10. Thank you. That one, that's pretty sad. I mean, he kind of, I don't know. It seemed like he knew what was coming, at least. It's probably actually some Mexican cops on the take. I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
Nice cock. Perfect.
Trevor Dealey was a 22-year-old man who lived and worked in Dublin, the Republic of Ireland. Friendly and hard-working, Trevor was well liked by everyone who knew him, and as far as anyone knows, didn't have any enemies to speak of. Which makes what happened to him all the more tragic and confusing. On the evening of December 7th, 2000, Trevor attended a work Christmas party at the Hilton Hotel on Chalmont Place. Trevor and a few of his colleagues decided to keep the party going and made their way to Buck Whaley's nightclub on Lower Leeson
Tune? I don't know. I have no idea, actually.
Street. There, they all enjoyed themselves well into the early hours.
What do y'all tune in? Huh? What kind of question is that? An open, every guitar is an open G.
Of Saturday, December 8th. At approximately 3:25 AM, Trevor left the venue and decided to go home. There happened to be a taxi strike going on at the time, meaning there weren't any drivers available to drop Trevor off at his apartment on Serpentine Avenue. That meant he was going to have to head home on foot. Before doing so, he went to pick up an umbrella from his workplace, the Bank of Ireland Asset Management Building. It was just a few minutes stroll away, across from Leeson Street Bridge, and since the heavens were about to open, he thought it wise to go and grab one. 30 minutes before Trevor arrived, however, While he was still at Buck Whaley's, this eerie individual, referred to as the Man in Black, was caught on CCTV standing
he's
outside
probably called the Man in Black because he's never been caught.
at his office building. For 30 long minutes, he stood there, as if waiting for somebody in particular. At 3:34 AM, that same camera shows Trevor making his way to the entrance gate of the building. The Man in Black follows him. As Trevor unlocks the gate, the man approaches and briefly chats with him about something. Trevor continues to fiddle with the lock, but doesn't appear distressed by the man's presence. He enters the complex, leaving the Man in Black on the other side of the gate.
Thus?
Inside, Trevor picked up his umbrella and had a cup of tea with one of his co-workers who was on a night shift. 26 minutes later, Trevor leaves the building, and the Man in Black is nowhere to be seen.
Alright.
Trevor continued on in the direction of his house, and was last caught on camera at 4:14 AM, passing an ATM on Haddington Road. He walks out of the camera's field of view, and a Man in Black enters, trailing closely behind him. The authorities believe that this was the same Man in Black seen waiting outside Trevor's workplace.
But he looks like he's wearing a big old coat.
Those are the last
He wasn't
known
wearing a coat
movements
earlier, was he?
of Trevor
Like a long
Dealey.
one?
When he failed to turn up for work that morning, nobody was particularly concerned.
Thank you,
It
Surfing
had been a
Herder.
very late night.
Nice car.
His flatmates were also away that weekend, meaning that nobody was aware he hadn't made it back to his apartment. The alarm was only sounded the following Monday, when he again failed to turn up for work, and nobody was able to contact him.
The following Monday?
An investigation into Trevor Dealey's disappearance
That's how
was
long
launched.
it took?
The local area was thoroughly searched. The River Dodder was scoured. Missing person posters were placed all around the city. The police followed over 700 lines of inquiry. Derelict sites were unearthed in search of his remains. But no trace of the young man was ever found. To this day, nearly 22 years after he vanished, Trevor's whereabouts and well-being remain a mystery. Even now, the search for Trevor continues, with this age-progressed image of the missing man being created and released to the public, showing what he may have looked like at the age of 35.
Is it
Needless to
Dublin?
say, the main question on everyone's lips is who is that Man in Black? Unfortunately, we still don't know, though for obvious reasons, he's considered a prime suspect in Trevor's disappearance, and in all likelihood, death. Though when it comes to a motive, everyone who knew Trevor has been left scratching their heads. Could this have been a dispute over a woman? Over a debt? An old grudge perhaps? Or was this simply a random targeting? We don't know. For 2 decades, the authorities have done their utmost to ID the shadowy figure
It's
in
your
these
mom.
images, but due to the lack of detail in the recordings, and a lack of
Well, the
lead,
Man in Black is obviously a Man in Black. I mean, you got that right. The dude who is there is in black, so.
they've never been able to. All they know for certain is that this wasn't one of Trevor's colleagues. After all these years, the man who was seen following Trevor still keeps me awake at night, said Trevor's brother, Mark. That individual sticks in my mind because they've never been formally identified or come forward. Having looked at the footage again and again, I was hoping someone might have recognized the way they walk. I would do anything to find out who this person is.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely Jeff. Dude, that's definitely Jeff's walk. I know Jeff, and that's how he walk. Who's gonna recognize someone's walk?
And would have no problem in meeting anyone who might be able to give us some information.
This is why if your employee doesn't turn up, you call them.
Elusive man in black? A 100,000 euro reward is available to anyone who has the answer to that question, or indeed to
Classic
whoever
Jeff,
has any
that's
other
his
valuable
walk, man.
information pertaining to Trevor's disappearance.
You put 5 people in a row, have them walk. I'll pick out Jeff right away. What, you don't watch your homies walk?
to end
Dude,
this
everyone has a specific walk. Yeah, I just imagine like someone just doing like the lean walk. Like every step they like lean back and shit. It's like, oh, there he is. That's him. There's the guy.
video, a very recent case from Hong Kong. Zhao Weiqian, better known by her Western name, Aqua Chow, was a rather
Zhao? Aqua Zhao? That's an interesting name.
prominent yoga teacher and influencer with a sizable following on Instagram and other social media platforms. Judging by all of her posts, the glamorous 23-year-old appeared to be living the perfect life.
That's Instagram,
Young,
baby. Everybody
rich,
lives the
and with
perfect life
thousands
on
of adoring
Instagram.
fans. It seemed as if the world was Aqua's oyster, and that she was leading the type of existence most people can only dream of.
People dream of being... Do people really dream of being Instagram, like, famous by just posting pictures of them, like, half naked?
But,
Do people
as
really
we
dream
know,
of that?
influencers only ever present the best parts of their lives online.
True.
The highlight reels, so to speak.
True.
Behind the scenes, Aqua was actually having problems with her ex-boyfriend,
Probably nowadays. I guess it's
28-year-old
true.
Alex Lowe. The pair had recently split up in December of 2021 after Alex threatened Aqua's life during a heated argument. Alex had been arrested as a result. After the breakup, Aqua tried to move on with her life and kept her fans fed with more and more content. That is, until June 27th of this year, when Aqua made her final Instagram post, a video of her playing golf. After that, she seemingly disappeared from the internet. That was odd, seeing how she usually posted at least every other day. Stranger than her lack of posts, however, was the fact that on June 30th, she missed her scheduled flight to the US, where she was about to begin further studies.
I feel like constantly editing your face and body must fuck with your mind too. That's very true. It's either it affects your mind in a negative, I mean, it'll always be a negative way. It affects your mind in thinking that, you know, you're not pretty because you are editing your face, or it's making you delusional, which is a negative mental way, in thinking that you are that pretty when you're not. So it completely just messes with your mind.
Aqua's mother tried contacting her to check that she was at the airport, but was unable to get through to her. Concerned about her daughter's well-being, she contacted the Hong Kong authorities. But she needn't have bothered.
Sorry.
That same day, Aqua's
Okay,
ex-boyfriend...
I'm sorry, but why? I was basically, I'm just wondering why choose that picture. Okay, sorry.
Alex Lowe went to the Tai Sin police station with his lawyer and handed them a hotel room key. The police immediately went to the 5-star hotel Aqua had stayed at the previous night, the Ritz-Carlton in Tim Sa Shui. They entered her room using the key Alex had provided them and found Aqua hacked to pieces in the bathtub. Her head was submerged in the water.
Oh! Okay. That took a jump. That took a large jump.
Bath with her was the 27cm blade used to end her life. There were clear signs of a struggle, and Aqua had suffered over 30 punctures to her torso and throat.
Dear
Alex
Lord.
was immediately taken into custody, though despite handing the authorities the hotel key, he still maintained his innocence, meaning that the police still had some detective work to do. They soon learned that the knife had been purchased shortly before the incident, meaning that the murder had been premeditated. They also found that Aqua's mobile phone was missing from the scene. It's theorized that the device held some incriminating messages sent by Alex to Aqua, and as such, he disposed of it. Finally, they checked the surveillance cameras in Aqua's apartment building. On one of them, they found the last footage of Aqua ever recorded, which showed her leaving her complex with Alex at about 4 PM the day before her slaying. Aqua must have decided to reconnect with him, or at least meet up with him one last time before her flight to the US. From there, the pair likely went to the Ritz-Carlton together. Before Aqua could check out the following morning, Alex took her life and left her submerged in the bathtub.
Dear Lord.
I'd like to point out that Alex still hasn't formally confessed to slaying Aqua and maintains his innocence to this day. Given the circumstances, however, I think it's safe to say that the right man's in custody. As it stands, his motivation for slaughtering Aqua remains unknown, though in all likelihood, this was probably a case of, if I can't have you, no one can. Still, that's just speculation, and I'm sure more details will come out during his trial. Keep those peepers peeled for updates.
Dear God. Well, that took a jump. Jesus Christ.
Now it's time to walk away. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Did you laugh or cry or maybe subscribed? I'll thank you either way. You know I will miss you. I hope you return. Tell your friend or your mother to get me more views, please.